Welcome to Quiet Story, the quietest corner of YouTube for drifting off to soft-spoken, odd corners of history. Before we begin, take a deep breath and let it go. Let the weight of the day melt into your pillow. In the comments, tell us, where are you watching from, and how long does it usually take you to fall asleep? Tonight, we begin a slow, sandy journey through the tangled, itchy, and sun-drenched world of ancient Greece. It's not exactly the toga party you imagined. It's rougher, dustier, full of breadcrumbs and opinions. So now, gently close your eyes and allow yourself to sink into a world where sandals squeak, amphorae leak, and wisdom hides under piles of olive pits. It is morning, though time is vague here, not measured by clocks, but by the slow warming of terracotta. You wake slowly. Not because you're well rested, but because your spine is attempting a quiet rebellion. The bed beneath you is hard. Not just firm mattress hard. No, kiln-fired clay slab hard, with a thin mat laid over it like a hopeful lie. Your blanket is scratchy, woven from something that might once have been linen, or perhaps reeds, or perhaps woven disapproval. You can't be sure. You shift slightly and hear something pop. It's unclear if it came from your back or the jar beside your head. Because yes, you are surrounded by jars. Amphorae, more specifically. Some painted. Some stained. Some half full of olive oil, others long since dried and crusted with brine or forgotten perfumes. They loom around you like sleepy sentinels, silent and slightly judgmental. The air is thick with their scent, a blend of oil, clay, and something faintly resembling ancient garlic. You blink at the ceiling beams above, worn smooth from generations of smoke curling past them. Somewhere beyond the shuttered window, a donkey is making low, guttural complaints about breakfast. A rooster, late and hoarse, crows with the determination of an underachiever. You sit up, instantly regret it, and lie back down again for exactly 7 seconds. Your tongue feels like it slept separately from you. Dry, dusty, and faintly resinous. You'd kill for a sip of fresh water, but you remember something about water not being safe in this century unless it's mixed with a little wine, or honey, or boiled, or avoided altogether. Eventually, with a sound you'll later swear came from inside your hip, you swing your feet down onto the cool earthen floor. A small gecko darts away under a basket. Your ankle knocks into one of the amphorae. It wobbles. You freeze. You pray to any god that will listen. It steadies. A miracle. You exhale. From beyond the threshold, someone calls out in a language you recognize only vaguely. Your host's voice, perhaps. Or their cousin. Or a traveling goat seller who moved in during the night. No one tells you anything here. You're just expected to know things. How to wear a chiton without flashing your thighs. How to bow to a household god without knocking over the olives. You shuffle toward the doorway, ducking to avoid the low lintel, because doorways in ancient Greece are apparently designed for smaller, shorter, wiser people. Your hair catches on a cobweb. You brush it away and instantly regret touching the wall. It's coated in dust, ash, and something sticky you refuse to identify. You enter the courtyard. It's already busy. A woman is washing laundry in a terracotta basin, humming tunelessly. A boy chases a chicken through a grove of fig trees. 2 old men are arguing about the correct way to pronounce the name of a city-state you've never heard of. One of them is holding a cheese wheel. The other has a stick. They both look dangerous. You inhale the morning. The air is warm and dry, laced with the smell of crushed thyme, stale wine, and beeswax. Somewhere nearby, bread is baking, or burning. Possibly both. A dog barks. Then sneezes. Then barks again. You stand still for a moment, taking it all in, The hard light of the sun, the soft slap of sandals on stone, the buzzing of 1,000 unknown insects. Your feet ache. Your stomach growls. Your mind, still half asleep, wonders vaguely how far you are from a coffee shop. Then remembers coffee hasn't been invented yet. And neither has deodorant. A fly lands on your forehead. You sweat it away and sigh. This is it. This is how your day begins in ancient Greece. And despite everything, the heat, the confusion, the strange smell of the dog, you feel oddly grounded, connected, like a very dusty part of something ancient and sprawling. You take one careful step forward, and immediately stub your toe on an amphora. Again. You're sent to fetch water and discover the well is full of philosophers. You haven't even properly stretched when someone tells you it's your turn to fetch the water. They don't say it cruelly. Just plainly, the way people do when they've lived long enough to stop offering context. The sentence is more of a gentle command than a request. You nod before fully processing what "fetch the water" actually entails. Your host, or the person whose floor you may have slept on, points vaguely down the path that curves past a fig tree, behind a goat that seems deeply offended by your existence. You squint in the morning light, still blinking away olive oil fumes from the storeroom. You try to ask, "How far is the well?" But the only word you get out is, "How?" before they've already turned back to kneading barley dough with elbows of steel. So you go. Because apparently you're the kind of person who says yes to ancient errands before coffee. You carry a clay jug, large enough to make your shoulder scream but small enough that everyone will still call you lazy when you return. It's warm against your side, sun-soaked and slightly chipped, with an inscription you can't read, possibly a blessing, possibly a joke. The jug is surprisingly heavy, even empty. You start walking downhill. The path is not so much a road as it is a suggestion of a direction, littered with pebbles that specialize in attacking bare feet. A bird caws overhead in a voice full of secrets and judgment. Somewhere in the olive grove, something large rustles and then pretends not to exist. You finally reach the well, only to find a line of men. And not just any men, philosophers. Or people pretending to be philosophers. It's hard to tell the difference when they all speak in metaphors and wear the same threadbare cloaks. They're not fetching water. They're talking about water. Debating its nature. Discussing whether water is the fundamental element, or merely one manifestation of cosmic harmony. One of them gestures wildly and nearly falls into the well. Another is scribbling something into a wax tablet while nodding solemnly, as though he's translating the divine wisdom of the aquifer itself. You stand there, jug in hand, waiting your turn, except there is no turn. No one is drawing water. No one intends to. The well is now an open-air symposium. You're stuck. One man turns to you and asks, "Would you say the jug is truly empty, or only awaiting fulfillment?" You blink. You say, "I just need water." He nods gravely, as if you've said something deeply profound. He writes it down. Another claps and shouts, "Let us consider the jug as a metaphor for the soul," and launches into a lecture involving the four humors, 3 goats, and something called the tyranny of the body. You sit down on a warm stone because standing makes your legs ache. You try to follow the conversation, but your brain slides off the words like oil off marble. Every time someone gestures toward the well, your heart lifts, only for them to resume their circular discussion of form, essence, and whether shadows have weight. At one point, 2 of them argue whether the water becomes less itself when placed into different vessels. One insists yes, because form changes perception. The other insists no, because essence is eternal. Neither of them has washed in days. You consider suggesting they both jump into the well and become part of the problem. A dog wanders by, sniffs your jug, sniffs you, decides you're irrelevant and leaves. You envy the dog's certainty. Eventually, someone does draw water, not because the debate ends, but because a woman from the nearby bakery shows up, says absolutely nothing, and just lowers her rope with terrifying efficiency. The philosophers part like reeds in the wind. She fills her jug in 3 seconds and leaves without a word. You follow her lead. You finally get to the well's edge. The pulley creaks. The water glistens far below, cool and clean. The jug lowers, fills, lifts. Heavy, yes, but manageable. You hold it with both arms, water sloshing softly inside, and begin the long, hot, pebble-filled walk back up the hill. By the time you return, the bread is baking, someone is yelling about lentils, and the sun has fully claimed the sky. Your arms ache. Your sandals squeak. And someone looks at your jug and says, "That's all you brought?" You say nothing. You sit in the shade, watching oil drip from someone's fingers, and wonder, not about the nature of water, but about how soon you can lie down again without anyone assigning you another errand. You mispronounce a god's name in front of a priest. The morning is already far too bright for the kind of mistake you're about to make. You're sent on another errand, of course. That's just your new reality, a soft-footed outsider shuttled around like a badly carved idol, given instructions by people who assume you know what a tholos is, or where the second altar past the olives might be. You nod dutifully and set off again, clutching a small woven basket filled with what you assume is some kind of temple offering, a lump of cheese, a handful of figs, and a folded bit of linen embroidered with blue thread. You think you were told to bring this to the shrine of Apollo. Or was it Hermes? No one really clarified. You were too afraid to ask. The path winds between crumbling white walls and goat tracks, past fig trees so full of buzzing wasps you flinch every few steps. Your sandals are already dust-colored. Your arms ache. You pause once to wipe your forehead and mutter something approximating a prayer, mostly to ask the gods not to let you pass out or drop the cheese. You arrive at the temple, a small marble structure perched on a hill that would look magnificent if you weren't already sweating through your tunic. A pair of young acolytes sweep the front steps without making eye contact. Inside, the air cools slightly. It smells of resin, crushed laurel leaves, and very old incense. There's a brazier gently smoldering in the corner. Somewhere behind a veil of fabric, a lyre plays softly. Or maybe that's your imagination. Then he arrives, the priest. Tall, straight-backed, wearing layered white linen edged in red. His hair is pulled back, his beard is braided, and he radiates an aura of calm authority that makes you feel like a walking mistake. You bow, awkwardly, deeply, clutching the basket to your chest. You say what you hope is the proper greeting. Blessings to you and... Halpoyo. Silence. You freeze. The priest blinks once, as if you've just told him figs are sentient. Then his mouth twitches. Halpoyo? He repeats. Slowly. Calmly. Like a lion savoring the pause before the pounce. You nod with a smile that is equal parts apology and confusion. Yes? The sun god? The one with the lyre? The poetry? The... Do you mean? The priest asks, with the gentle precision of a man about to spiritually slap you. Apollo? Your mouth opens, then closes. You look at the basket as if the cheese can rescue you. I may have pronounced it seasonally, you say, trying for a joke. He doesn't laugh. Behind you, one of the acolytes coughs in a way that sounds suspiciously like a suppressed chuckle. The priest takes a step forward, and you instinctively take one back. You try to fix it. I just got here, you say. Not here, but here, to Greece. And I haven't been properly trained in. You came to the house of the god of music, prophecy, medicine, and reason, the priest says softly, and called him Halpoyo. He places one hand gently on the edge of your basket and lifts it from your shaking arms. Let's hope he finds your offering more respectful than your diction. You are dismissed not with anger, but with the kind of quiet disdain usually reserved for flies that land in honey. You slink out of the temple trying not to trip on your own dignity. The acolytes are now sweeping slightly faster, aggressively ignoring you. Outside, the sun slaps you across the face again. You blink. The sky is too blue. The ground is too loud. You're too human for this place. You walk back down the hill, trying to imagine how badly you'd have to mispronounce Zeus to be smote on the spot. You make a vow, quietly to yourself, under your breath. No more speaking unless absolutely necessary. Then, as if summoned by your embarrassment, someone calls your name from down the street and asks you to help polish a statue of Athena. You sigh. You nod. And you promise to call her by the right name, even if your mouth forgets the rest. You trip over a goat during morning rituals. You awaken to the scent of incense and goat. Someone is already clapping outside your reed and mud lodging, yelling something about purity and lateness, and, "You there, new one, stop drooling into the papyrus mat." It takes several long seconds for your soul to catch up with your body, and when it does, it's immediately overwhelmed by the dry sting of morning air, the distant screech of ibis birds, and the growing realization that today is ritual day. You barely manage to wrap your linen tunic around yourself before being pulled along with a cluster of temple attendants, most of whom look equally sleep-deprived, clutching brass bowls and bundles of herbs with the hollow-eyed obedience of those who know better than to resist sacred chores. The temple is beautiful, yes, but it's also intimidating. Towering pylons flank the entrance like watching gods. The walls gleam with freshly painted hieroglyphs, scenes of kings offering incense to falcon-headed deities who seem, even in paint, mildly judgmental. Statues loom, not quite alive, but not quite still either. You step carefully, half expecting one to blink. Your task? Sweep the ritual courtyard and prepare the path for the high priestess, who will emerge after her hour-long purification bath to walk barefoot toward the sanctuary. No one dares to explain what happens if she finds the path unswept. One old man simply mimes an ominous throat-slash-gesture and limps away. You take up your broom, a crooked thing made of dried palm fronds and prayer, and begin dutifully brushing away the sand and petals and faint traces of yesterday's incense. Around you, others sprinkle natron salts, hang garlands, fan the altar flames just right. It's a choreography of devotion, a symphony of sacred fussing. And that's when you hear the sound. Not the rustling of reeds, not the whisper of robes, but a soft, unmistakable snort. You glance to your left. There, tied with nothing sturdier than a frayed rope to one of the outer columns, stands a massive temple goat. She is large. She is uninterested in your existence. She is chewing what appears to be an offering wreath. Her eyes meet yours with the bored confidence of an animal who has seen generations of human folly and expects no improvement from you. You pretend she's not there. You sweep. You take one step back to admire your work. And then you step on her tail. There is no time to apologize. No time to even gasp. The goat lurches. You spin. A priest yells. You flail. The broom goes flying. You land, quite unceremoniously, in a decorative basin of lotus water meant for symbolic hand washing. Your tunic soaks through instantly. Your dignity does not. For several seconds there is silence. Then murmurs ripple through the courtyard like ripples from your splash. Someone chuckles. A novice gasps. A child shouts, "That's not how you cleanse yourself." The high priestess appears early. Of course she does. Drenched in ceremonial oils and dignity, she glides into view, and her kohl-lined eyes take in the scene. Goat, rope, basin, you. Her silence is louder than thunder. You stand. You bow. You slip again. The goat bleats in what can only be interpreted as laughter. A senior priest steps forward and claps his hands for attention. "The gods," he says loudly, "value humility." Everyone nods. Even the goat seems to agree. You are reassigned. You no longer sweep. You now walk in circles carrying a copper bowl of smoking myrrh, while chanting a single syllable for an hour. No one tells you what the syllable means. You are too embarrassed to ask. Eventually, your wet tunic dries. Eventually, the laughter fades. Eventually, someone pats your shoulder and says, "At least the basin is cleaner than it's ever been." By sunset, the goat has forgotten you. But you haven't forgotten her. You attempt to wear a chiton gracefully and fail. You wake once again to the relentless brightness of the Greek morning sun filtering through the open clay walls of your modest home. The air smells faintly of olive oil and fresh figs, but your own sense of calm is nowhere to be found. Today is important. A local gathering awaits, and despite your lingering desire to stay in bed, you must present yourself with a semblance of dignity. The chiton lies before you like a mysterious puzzle, a long, unstitched rectangle of fine linen, soft yet unforgiving in its enormity. You recall the woman's impatient instructions from yesterday, the effortless way she draped, pinned, and belted the garment with such practiced grace. But watching is one thing, doing it yourself is a trial of patience, dexterity, and sheer luck. You wrap the fabric around your torso, but already it seems too long, slipping over your feet like a stubborn serpent. You clutch the edges, attempting to fold them just right, but the fabric resists you as if mocking your novice hands. The fibulae, the small metal pins meant to fasten your chiton, feel like miniature weapons in your fingers. The first attempt to pierce the fabric ends with a sharp jab to your thumb, eliciting a yelp and a sudden drop of the pin onto the floor. Regrouping, you try again, your hands trembling slightly, betraying your frustration. The second pin finds its mark, but the tension pulls the fabric awkwardly across your shoulder. You realize you've pinned too far back, and now your chiton's drape resembles a flag caught in a storm rather than the elegant garment you aspire to wear. You attempt to smooth the folds, pulling the fabric tighter and gathering it at your waist where the belt should secure everything in place. But the linen slips beneath your grasp, and the belt is no better, too loose to hold, too tight to breathe comfortably when cinched. Every breath becomes a test of endurance, each movement threatens to unravel your efforts. You stumble towards the mirror, a polished bronze disc mounted on the wall, and are met with the reflection of a disheveled figure, one shoulder bare, the other strangled in linen, your feet tangled in the hem like a child learning to walk. The chiton clings awkwardly, sagging in all the wrong places, and you're fairly certain the children outside are already laughing. Determined, you readjust, twisting and pinning until the chiton at least resembles a human-shaped toga. But fate has other plans. With a dramatic rip, one of the fibulae gives way, the linen falling open to reveal more leg than is socially acceptable. The belt slips again, sliding down to pull around your ankles, leaving you momentarily floundering like a caught fish. A voice interrupts your struggle. It's the woman from yesterday, returning with a look that combines exasperation and reluctant sympathy. In a few swift movements, she pins the chiton perfectly, ties the belt with practiced ease, and fixes your hair, giving you a final once-over. "You'll live," she says dryly. Relieved but still flustered, you step outside, careful to avoid tripping on your too long hem. The sun is warm on your skin, the breeze carries the scent of nearby olive groves, and somewhere, a lyre strums a lazy tune. For a brief moment, you feel the grace of ancient Greece flow through you, a fleeting sense of belonging amid the chaos. Then, with a sudden pop, the other fiddler dislodges, sending you scrambling to catch your chiton before it betrays you once more. You sigh deeply, knowing this will be a morning to remember, though not for the reasons you hoped. You're challenged to a foot race by a child holding bread. The morning sun climbs higher, casting golden light over the dusty streets of the bustling Greek town. You've barely regained your composure after the chiton fiasco when a sharp, playful voice cuts through the air. "Hey! You there! Come race me!" You turn to see a small boy barefoot, wild-haired, and clutching a freshly baked loaf of bread like a treasured prize. His eyes gleam with mischief and unyielding confidence, as if he has already counted his victory and the spoils that will follow. The crowd around you chuckles softly, some familiar faces nodding knowingly. Foot races are a favorite pastime here, and it seems the youth have already spotted you as an easy target. Despite the surprise and the weight of the morning's mishaps, you feel a spark of challenge ignite within you. After all, you're not about to let a child outpace you through these ancient streets. "All right," you say, voice steadier than you feel. "But no tricks." The boy grins wider and drops the bread onto a nearby stone bench, placing it carefully as if it were a trophy to be claimed by the race winner. The makeshift crowd thickens, murmuring in anticipation. You glance down at your feet, sandals crafted from worn leather, barely holding together after the last few days' adventures. The street is uneven, cobbled with jagged stones and scattered debris from the morning market. The boy bounces on the balls of his feet, eager and ready, his breath misting in the warm air. "On your mark!" someone calls. "Get set!" The tension tightens. "Go!" You push off, legs pumping, heart thundering in your chest like the beat of a war drum. The boy darts forward with surprising speed, weaving nimbly through a group of merchants unloading amphorae of olive oil and wine. You struggle to match his rhythm, your sandals slipping occasionally on the smooth stones. Dust kicks up around your feet, mingling with the scent of fresh bread and crushed olives. The boy laughs behind you, pure, youthful, unstoppable. You dart left to avoid a startled goat, then right past a group of women gossiping by a well. The crowd cheers, a mix of amusement and encouragement, their voices blending into the chorus of the market's life. Your lungs burn, your muscles scream, but you refuse to slow. You're fueled not just by the desire to win, but by the growing embarrassment of being beaten by a child. Ahead, the boy's figure flickers like a flame, small but fierce. He reaches the narrow alleyway near the temple first, glancing back with a triumphant smirk. Suddenly, your sandal strap snaps, an ominous betrayal. Your foot slips awkwardly, and you stumble forward, barely catching yourself against the wall. The boy seizes his chance, crossing an imaginary finish line and throwing his arms wide in victory. The crowd erupts in laughter and applause. The boy scoops up his bread, triumphant, and offers you a mocking bow. Breathing hard, cheeks flushed with exertion and defeat, you accept your loss with a grin. The lesson here is clear. In ancient Greece, humility often arrives on small feet holding unexpected challenges. As you straighten your chiton and adjust your sandals, you can't help but smile. The city is alive with lessons, laughter, and moments like these, each one weaving you deeper into the fabric of this ancient world. You try to haggle in the agora and accidentally insult someone's grandmother. The agora swells with life as the late morning sun bakes the flagstones into a radiant mosaic of heat. It's not just a market, it's the very lungs of Athens, exhaling smells of roasted garlic, fig cakes, goat leather, olive oil, sweat, and something pungently fishy you try not to identify. Voices echo in every direction, merchants barking deals, poets loudly composing odes no one asked for, and old men debating matters that sound both urgent and deeply irrelevant. You arrive with a mission, by a small woven basket. That's it. Nothing dramatic. Nothing heroic. Just a simple transaction like the locals do. You sidestep a pair of philosophers arguing near a vegetable stand. One of them is gesturing with a leek like a scepter, and spot a stall under faded purple cloth. The baskets are tightly woven, painted with red ochre and lined with tiny pattern knots. They're beautiful. One in particular catches your eye, round, sturdy, just the right size to hold a few figs and perhaps your remaining sense of dignity. The vendor, a small woman with wiry gray hair and hands that look like they've strangled time itself, looks up from her stitching. She doesn't smile. No one in the agora smiles at strangers. She squints at you the way a hawk might squint at a mouse who dares approach politely. You begin with confidence. Calamera, you say. Lovely baskets. How much for this one? She answers flatly, naming a price that nearly knocks you back into yesterday. You blink, stall for time, try a feeble joke. That much? Did your grandmother weave it with golden thread? She freezes. Dead silence. For a full, breathless second, even the donkey 2 stalls over stops chewing. My grandmother, she says slowly, voice trembling with ancient fury, wove that pattern during the famine, while pregnant with my mother and carrying water on her back. That pattern paid for her dowry. That basket fed generations. And you ask if it's gold? Your stomach drops to your sandals. I meant it as a compliment. To whom? Your grandmother. And the basket. And famine, strength. You're rambling. You're sweating. You're wishing the earth would open up and swallow you whole, preferably with a cooling breeze and maybe a time machine. From behind her, 3 men glance over, all with the same sharp nose and squint. Family, you suspect. One lifts a ladle slowly, not like he's about to serve soup, but like he's considering whether ladles can be used in self-defense. You do the only logical thing. You panic buy. I'll take 3 baskets. Full price. No haggling. Just appreciation. Deep appreciation. She says nothing, but takes your coins with a look that suggests you've narrowly avoided being cursed in 3 dialects. The transaction ends. You bow slightly, trip over your own foot, catch yourself on the stall of a man selling scented oils, and nearly knock over a display shaped like Aphrodite's backside. Careful! The oil seller yells, then leans closer. Did you insult Eleni's grandmother? I think I did. He whistles low. Better buy something from me too. Balance the fates. You buy lavender oil you don't need and accept a complimentary amulet. For protection. Clutching your 3 baskets and mystery oil, you flee deeper into the agora, weaving past pomegranate sellers and philosophers in mid-rant. One is explaining the soul of a turnip. You pretend not to hear. Later, sitting in a shaded corner by a statue of Hermes, you stare at the baskets. They really are beautiful. Your heart rate slowly returns to something below impending execution. In ancient Greece, you realize, every conversation is a duel. Every price is a test of cleverness. Every grandmother is sacred. And you? You're just trying to survive 1 more hour without offending an entire bloodline. You're forced to listen to a drunken poet recite for hours. You only wanted a quiet place to sit. The sun has dipped into its gentler phase, casting long gold-tipped shadows across the agora, and your legs, having endured 1 too many near-death encounters with goats, scholars, and woven baskets, have begun to plead for rest. You spot a low stone bench tucked beside a pillar, half-shaded, smelling faintly of thyme and stale honey cakes. It is, by ancient Greek standards, blissfully unoccupied. You exhale, ease yourself down, and close your eyes. You almost drift. Then you hear it. A voice, like wet wool being wrung out slowly, begins to chant from somewhere nearby. The words are Greek, ancient, flowery, elaborate Greek, but you catch a few. Glory, wine, the sea, and something suspiciously close to. My spleen sings like Apollo's lyre. You open one eye. A man with wild, wind-knotted hair, a wine stain down the entire front of his once white tunic, and a scroll that's more tear-streaked than legible, has perched himself on a nearby amphora. He lifts his arms dramatically, nearly toppling backward, and begins again. Louder. People around you groan quietly. A few silently retreat. One vendor simply places a fig in each ear and continues slicing olives. The poet locks eyes with you, his only remaining audience. "O Muse!" he cries, staggering forward. "I see in this stranger's gaze the depth of Orpheus's despair." "No," you begin gently. "Please don't." But it's too late. He launches into a sprawling epic. Beginning with the dawn of creation, which he claims began with a sneeze from the goddess Hera, then transitions into a long and confusing section about a donkey who bests a demigod in a riddle contest. Every stanza includes increasingly creative metaphors involving cheese, regret, and tides. He weeps halfway through. He sings a little. At one point, he lies on the ground and whispers the names of his ex-lovers in rhyming couplets. People begin to return, not to rescue you, but to watch. A group of children sits cross-legged, giggling quietly each time the poet hiccups mid-verse. An old woman places a dried fig near your foot like an offering of solidarity. A stray cat curls up beside the poet's scroll, swatting at his hand every time he gestures too close. Time becomes meaningless. You try to interject, to stand, but each movement encourages him. He believes your discomfort is passion. Yes. Feel it. The agony of existence. The bite of memory. The sting of olives gone sour. You consider faking your own death. At some point, perhaps hours in, perhaps lifetimes, the poet's voice finally slows. He sways. He mutters something about the moon being unfaithful, then collapses gently against a stack of amphorae and begins snoring with theatrical elegance. The crowd disperses slowly. A philosopher pats you on the back and whispers, "You've done a public service." He only stops when someone listens fully. You sit in silence, exhausted, blinking at the quiet world. Somewhere nearby, the agora pulses on, bakers baking, sandals slapping cobblestones, someone arguing about figs. You rise, legs aching, scroll fragments stuck to your sandal. In ancient Greece, you now understand, poetry isn't just an art form. It's a weapon, a test of endurance, a slow descent into wine-soaked madness. And tomorrow, you suspect, that same poet will rise again, scroll in hand, spleen ready to sing. You drop a fava bean during a sacrifice and everyone gasps. Expanded for maximum sleepy immersion. You're not sure how it happened. One moment, you were standing quietly near the back of the sacred grove, holding a modest basket woven from papyrus and twine, filled with the humble offerings of a low-ranking outsider, barley husks, crumbled incense, 2 sprigs of dried myrtle, and 5 fava beans. And the next? You're being ushered forward. Not gently. Not unkindly. Just firmly. Urgently. With a whispered, "Go. It's time. Bring the beans." No one told you what to do. You try to walk slowly, respectfully, but the grass beneath your feet is uneven, half scorched by sun, half shadowed by the olive trees that lean in like gossiping elders. In the center of the grove is an altar, low, white, marble-stained pink from old sacrifices and rusty water. A goat is tethered nearby, chewing a garland of its own ceremonial flowers. The priest, stiff-backed, ancient and alarmingly motionless, stands at the altar's edge. His eyes are closed. His mouth is whispering prayers to gods you don't quite believe in, but wouldn't dare disrespect. Flute music wobbles in the distance. Incense curls in the air like a drifting question. A breeze touches the back of your neck and makes the hairs stand up. Your heartbeat sounds loud inside your skull. You take a step closer. And then it happens. A tiny tug from your tunic. A misjudged shift of the basket's weight. A slight tilt of the wrist. One bean falls. A single fava bean, smooth and round and brown as a sun-baked pebble, tumbles from the edge of the basket. It bounces once on the marble. Tick. Rolls an inch. Tick. And comes to rest right beside the priest's dusty sandal. Time halts. The priest's eyes snap open. Gasps fill the grove like a wave. Someone behind you drops a clay cup. It shatters like thunder. A woman screams, not in fear, but in scandal. A child bursts into tears. The goat stops chewing and stares directly at you, which is somehow worse than being screamed at. You blink. Then you try to speak. I'm sorry. It slipped. It was just a bean. But no one hears you. Or rather, they hear you and wish they hadn't. The flutist stops mid-note. A man with a scroll clutches it to his chest like a shield. The priest stares at the fava bean like it's a dead bird on his breakfast plate. And then, softly, someone says it. The bean has touched the sacred ground. The phrase ripples through the crowd. Whispers multiply. A young acolyte faints. A philosopher pulls his students aside to urgently diagram the metaphysical implications of bean mishandling. The priest slowly turns toward you, eyes narrowed. You must leave the circle, he says in a voice like dust. You begin to step back, but he raises a hand. Not before the purification. From nowhere, someone brings water. Another salt. A third person produces an entire palm leaf soaked in olive oil. They begin to chant. Not at you, but around you. A sort of verbal perimeter to contain the damage. Two attendants collect your basket, carefully avoiding the bean as if it were a scorpion. You're guided, gently but unmistakably, back through the olive trees. Away from the ceremony. Past the staring eyes. Past the goat. Past the child who is still sobbing and dramatically clutching his knees as if he's lived through a tragedy. You sit down behind a stone column and are handed a warm fig and a cup of sour wine. Someone pats your back. No one speaks for several minutes. Eventually, an old woman in a faded saffron cloak leans over to you and whispers. They always overreact about the beans. You try to nod. You try to smile. But you still feel it, that unbearable pressure of having become part of the ritual not through reverence, but through error. Hours later, the ceremony concludes. The flute resumes. The goat is gone. The priest has forgiven the bean, or at least quarantined it in a small clay bowl and buried it in a distant patch of earth. You rejoin the crowd. But they part slightly when you walk past. Not rudely. Not cruelly. Just cautiously. As if your very presence still hums with bean energy. That night, lying on a thin blanket beneath a fig tree, you stare up at the stars and whisper to yourself. Next time, I'll bring raisins. But deep down you know. There will always be another bean. You're recruited into a play without knowing your lines. Expanded, full-bodied, and pleasantly absurd, ideal for drifting off into dreams of ancient stage fright. You just wanted a nap. That was it. You were strolling past the amphitheater, half asleep already, seeking a shady patch of marble to collapse on. You thought maybe you'd find a fig seller and a friendly dog. Maybe close your eyes and dream about something peaceful, like barley. But instead you were spotted. A voice bellowed from the stage. You! Yes, you with the sleepy eyes and sunburned nose. We need to see God. Before you could flee, someone strong and suspiciously theatrical grabbed you by the shoulders, spun you around, and shoved a mask into your hands, a grotesque, toothy creation with bulging fish eyes and an expression like it had just swallowed a lemon. Next thing you knew, someone else had thrown a robe over your shoulders, cinched it at the waist with a vine, and shoved a hollow staff into your fist. You tried to protest, but you were given a cup of watered wine instead. There, they said. Now you're divine. You opened your mouth to speak again, but a woman with bells in her hair whispered, No time, darling. Scene 2 begins after the priest finishes his chicken. And just like that, you were standing backstage, flanked by teenagers in papier-mâché armor and one very old man dressed as a talking tree. The curtain, a stained wool sheet embroidered with a somewhat crude owl, was yanked aside. Music blared. The chorus began humming ominously. You were gently pushed onto the dusty stage. Hundreds of eyes blinked at you from the stone benches. A child picked his nose in the front row. A goat tied to a pillar let out a bleat that sounded eerily like laughter. And then you remembered, you didn't know your lines. You didn't even know your character. The man beside you whispered frantically, Say something prophetic about the sea. You raised your staff. You summoned your most powerful, mysterious voice. The tides have spoken, you announced. There was a beat of silence. Then someone clapped. Someone else murmured, Oh, the tides, with reverence. You exhaled. Encouraged, you continued. They bring warnings from the jellyfish. And one strong smell of eel. The crowd was silent again. Somewhere, a tortoise sneezed. But no one stopped you. The plot, as far as you could guess, involved two star-crossed lovers, a vengeful fish oracle, and a suspiciously sentient grapevine. You tried to keep up. You tried to emote. You shouted. You whispered. You wandered dramatically across the stage, tripped on a rock, and called it symbolism. When someone asked what your character thought of fate, you replied, Fate is like sea foam, wet, temporary, and occasionally in your sandals. The crowd gasped. You bowed mid-scene. No one corrected you. You were handed a scroll at some point, blank, but you unrolled it solemnly and pretended to read ancient wisdom. You were handed olives, prop olives, and accidentally ate them. You were splashed with wine during a death scene and applauded for dedication to realism. In the final act, the other actors began singing about rebirth. You joined in, though you didn't know the words, and simply hummed along while slowly spinning in place like a confused sunflower. Then the tree fell over. The goat escaped. A child threw a pebble and hit your knee. The curtain dropped. Thunderous applause. Or perhaps polite confusion. Either way, it was done. Backstage, everyone patted your back and said, You really lived that role. Someone handed you a wedge of honey cheese. Someone else kissed your forehead. You sat on the stone steps, mask in your lap, cheese in your mouth, robe slipping off one shoulder, and thought, was I just in a play? Yes. And you did not perish. You did not forget your name, well, maybe briefly. You did not fall flat on your face, despite the extremely slippery fig skin on stage left. Instead, you became a legend. A sleepy sea god who accidentally performed a full-length philosophical tragedy without knowing a single line. And as the sun dipped behind the marble pillars, and the cicadas began to sing their night song, you leaned back, closed your eyes, and smiled. Not bad for a nap that never happened. You witness a trial where no one agrees on the crime. A slow-burn chaos wrapped in sandaled bureaucracy and philosophical shouting, perfect for drifting into absurd sleep. It begins, like so many things in ancient Greece, with shouting. You're walking innocently through the agora, hoping for a fig or maybe just a shady patch of column to lean on, when you hear someone cry, "He's guilty of it all!" followed by, "Guilty of what, exactly?" And then a third voice, older, wheezier, possibly chewing, saying, "Let's vote first and define later." Naturally, you stop to watch. It's a trial. You think. Probably. There's a man standing on a slightly elevated block of stone, tunic crooked, hair wild, arms thrown wide in passionate confusion. Beside him is another man, much older, holding what appears to be a dead chicken and gesturing to the crowd as if the chicken alone will prove everything. There is no judge. There is, however, a jury of 501 citizens. Yes, 501. They sit in a lopsided semicircle, some with slates for voting, others just munching olives. Several are clearly asleep. One is loudly arguing with a fig vendor about the price of walnuts. Another appears to be knitting. You find a seat between a potter and a retired athlete who offers you a grape and whispers, "This is the best kind of trial. No one agrees on the crime." You blink. "Then why is he on trial?" The potter shrugs. "He borrowed something." The athlete leans in. "He insulted a god." A woman behind you adds, "He stole a recipe for goat stew." Someone else chimes in, "He let his goat vote in the last election." More murmurs. Goat fraud. Olive embezzlement. Reckless use of metaphors. Unauthorized philosophy. On the stone platform, the accused begins his defense. He speaks passionately, hands flailing, pacing dramatically. "I am a simple man," he says, "with a complex mind and a mild allergy to garlic." Polite applause. He points to the man with the chicken. "This man has no evidence. He brought a poultry offering to a judicial matter. That chicken doesn't even look surprised." The man with the chicken holds it higher. "This bird saw everything." More polite applause. A small child throws a grape. A flute plays from somewhere, then stops abruptly. At this point, 3 philosophers wander into the scene, robes fluttering, each convinced they've been invited to moderate. One immediately begins a lecture on the difference between truth and perception. Another starts drawing shapes in the sand with a stick, claiming the geometry will reveal the verdict. The third just sighs and mutters, "Why are we even here?" A woman in the crowd stands up, proclaims, "He stepped on my sandals last week," and sits back down. This receives a murmur of consensus. Many nod. A man adds, "Yes," and with disrespectful posture. Then someone accuses him of having suspiciously shiny hair. Possibly divine. Possibly illegal. The accused says nothing. He holds his arms out, like a tragic hero or a man about to sneeze. The chicken squawks. A priest walks by, blesses the entire scene with a wave of incense, then backs away slowly, muttering something about chaos being sacred. Eventually, the crowd tires. Someone calls for a vote. The options are scrawled on broken pottery shards. Guilty of stealing stew. Guilty of not stealing stew but thinking about it. Guilty of wearing sandals with too much confidence. Not guilty, but slightly annoying. The shards are tossed into urns. One philosopher tries to count, but halfway through forgets what numbers are. The vote is inconclusive. The man is declared philosophically ambiguous, which apparently is enough to let him go. The crowd disperses slowly, already debating the meaning of justice, stew, and poultry rights. You sit still for a moment, then stand. You brush fig seeds from your tunic. You exhale. You have just witnessed a trial where no one knew what the crime was. The jury was enormous, the philosophers were uninvited, and the prosecution was a chicken. And somehow, it all made perfect sense. You walk away in the golden light of late afternoon, utterly unsure of what happened, but feeling strangely serene. You're given an oar and told you're in the Navy now. A tale of sudden conscription, seasickness, and the slow, rhythmic lull of utterly chaotic maritime duty. It all starts with a fish. A very large, very slippery fish. You had only come to the docks for a moment, to watch the boats, and maybe buy a honeyed fig if your coin pouch allowed it. But then someone shouts, "Help!" And you, in a moment of poor judgment and heroic instinct, grab a flailing rope that absolutely did not belong to you. You stabilize a rolling cart of amphory. People cheer. One grizzled man with sun-darkened skin and half a beard claps you on the back and says, "Good hands." You row now. Row now? You echo. As in, on a boat? Try he says with a wide smile. You'll get used to the blisters. Eventually. Before you can protest, you're handed an oar nearly twice your height, pointed toward a wooden ramp that leads into the hull of something that smells overwhelmingly of sweat, old bread, and salt-soaked timber. And that's how you become a member of the Athenian Navy. There is no ceremony, no training, no explanation. You are shoved between two other men with broad shoulders and defeated eyes. One of them nods to you. Just follow the rhythm. And if you vomit, do it toward the sea, not in the oar trench. You grip the heavy oar like a lost child clinging to a walking stick. A drum starts. A deep, ancient thudding rhythm. Left, right. Left, right. You row. The sun beats down like an angry god. Your tunic sticks to your back. The air is thick with the breath of 60 other oarsmen who also wish they were anywhere else. Occasionally, the drummer changes rhythm. Faster. Slower. Suddenly fast again for no reason. You suspect he's doing it for fun. The captain yells commands in words you don't understand. Sailors shout about the wind. A boy runs past holding what you're fairly sure is a dead squid. You begin to sweat from places you didn't know could sweat. Your hands feel raw. Your arms are turning into boiling ropes of pain. Someone on the deck above shouts, "Raise the sail!" Someone else shouts, "There is no sail!" And the first man just shrugs and lies down. Then the trireme jolts. You've hit a wave. Or maybe another ship. Or maybe a large fish. It's hard to say. You row. And row. And row. The sea stretches out endlessly in front of you, sparkling like broken pottery under the bright sun. The salt stings your lips. You try to keep the rhythm. You think of figs. You think of naps. You think of goats. Why goats? No reason. Just goats. Occasionally, a dolphin appears. Everyone cheers. It's unclear why. By midday, you've lost feeling in most of your arms. Your knees ache. Your spine has decided to leave your body. You mutter, "I didn't ask for this." And the man beside you grunts, "No one ever does." By afternoon, you are granted a break of 6 minutes and half a crust of bread. Someone offers you a sip of wine from a skin that smells like fish. You take it gratefully. As the sun begins to lower, you finally see land again. Athens in all its distant, dusty glory. The Parthenon watches you like a disapproving parent. The captain yells something triumphant. The crew cheers. A seagull poops on someone's sandal. Your arms are noodles. Your brain is seawater. You have rowed for what feels like 12 lifetimes. And yet, the rocking of the boat, the slow rhythm, the creak of wood and slap of waves. It's oddly hypnotic now. You realize, as you disembark and your legs forget how to be legs, that you may never lift your arms again. But you survived your first day as a very, very unwilling sailor. You also still have no idea what exactly your role was. Welcome to the Navy. You attend a symposium and realize you can't hold your wine. A tale of philosophical confusion, great base disasters, and the ancient art of pretending to understand Plato while sliding off a cushion. It begins, as many disasters do, with a casual invitation. A man in a saffron robe approaches you in the agora just before sunset, smelling faintly of time and arrogance. He calls you companion, which is suspicious because you've never met him before. He asks, "Do you enjoy the pursuit of wisdom?" And before you can respond with a non-committal shrug, he declares, "Excellent. Tonight you shall join us at the symposium." You nod, as if you know what that is. Later, as you approach the villa just beyond the city walls, you realize several things at once. You are severely underdressed. You have no idea what is expected of you. And your sandals squeak in an embarrassingly unphilosophical way. You are shown inside by a slave with impossibly calm eyes, who gestures toward a room flickering with lamplight. The air smells of olives, roasted lamb, and something floral you cannot name. Around a low table, a dozen men recline like sleepy panthers, dressed in loose tunics, their hair oiled and arranged like sculpted laurel leaves. They glance at you without curiosity, the way cats glance at a falling leaf. You are shown to a cushion, an overly embroidered, suspiciously slippery cushion. You attempt to recline like everyone else. Your elbow slips. You nearly decapitate a bowl of figs. Someone laughs softly. A cup is placed in your hand. It's made of painted clay, etched with dancing satyrs and tiny gods doing things you're certain are inappropriate. "Drink," says a man with a voice like polished marble. He nods toward the wine bowl in the center of the room, a crater big enough to drown in. A servant dips a ladle and fills your cup. The wine is dark, thick, and already swirling ominously. You take a cautious sip. It tastes like smoke, honey, and poor decisions. The conversation around the room flows like a slow river. Topics leap from justice to beauty to whether cats have souls to whether Heraclitus was just hungry all the time. Someone quotes Plato. Someone else calls him derivative. A third declares, "I once debated Socrates. He made me cry." The wine keeps coming. The men recline deeper. You, on the other hand, are attempting not to slide entirely off your cushion. You nod politely at someone expounding on the nature of love, even though your ears are ringing. You murmur something about the duality of form and function, and several people hum thoughtfully. You're not sure what you just said. You take another sip, then another. Now the room is humming slightly. Or maybe that's just your brain. A flute player begins to play. The sound curls around you like smoke. Someone begins to sing a hymn to Dionysus, but forgets the words halfway through and just hums, "La la la," until he runs out of breath. You take another sip. A man beside you asks your opinion on fate. You say, "I think it's a fish." He nods. "Exactly." You take another sip. You realize you can't feel your left eyebrow. You're also pretty sure you dropped your cup, but it's unclear when. It may now be under a grapevine-shaped pillow that wasn't there before. People begin standing up to dance, if one can call it that. A man in his 60s does something involving a scarf and a lot of spinning. Someone else trips over a lyre. Laughter erupts. You try to clap but accidentally slap a fig instead. You take another sip, or try to. The cup is empty, the floor is uneven, and your entire concept of balance has betrayed you. You blink at the ceiling. It appears to be spinning. You wonder if this is what Socrates meant by expanding the mind. A cushion slides under your back. You realize someone is helping you recline fully. "You've had enough wisdom for tonight," they say with a grin. You smile vaguely. Your lips taste like raisins. You are very warm. And also upside down. Your eyes flutter closed as the soft tones of debate and distant flute playing blend into a soothing, incoherent lullaby. You dream of arguing with a goat about metaphysics. Welcome to the symposium. You attempt to praise Athena and accidentally offend her owl. You find yourself standing at the edge of the agora, the sprawling marketplace that pulses like the city's beating heart. Around you, Athenians move in purposeful waves, some carrying bundles of scrolls, others animatedly debating the virtues of justice or the nature of the gods. The Parthenon looms majestically above, its gleaming marble columns reflecting the afternoon sun like a beacon. Today, your mission is one of reverence. You wish to honor Athena, the city's revered goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, crafts, and the very spirit of Athens itself. You have read and heard much about her, how she sprang fully grown and armored from the head of Zeus, fierce yet just, the eternal protector of this city that thrives on intellect and valor. Clutching a small basket in your hands, you feel the weight of your offerings, a small flask of golden olive oil from the sacred groves of Attica, a handful of ripe figs still sticky with sweetness, and a carefully woven wreath made from fresh olive branches, symbolic of peace and victory. As you approach the temple, the sound of distant lyres and faint hymns drift through the warm air. The Parthenon steps rise before you like the gateway to the divine, carved with stories of gods battling giants and men earning their fates. Near the temple's entrance sits Athena's sacred owl, a creature you know is far more than a mere bird. Its feathers shimmer like soft moonlight, and its large, unblinking eyes seem to pierce your very soul. The Athenians believe this owl is a direct emissary of Athena, a symbol of her all-seeing wisdom and watchfulness. To harm or insult the owl is to risk incurring the goddess's fury, a dangerous mistake. You gather your courage, step forward onto the marble, and raise your voice in humble praise. O mighty Athena, guardian of this city, source of wisdom and strength, I offer these gifts in your honor. You say, your voice steady but respectful. Bless our people with your guidance and keep us safe from harm. As you gently place the olive oil and figs at the altar, you hold the wreath delicately. But the temple's smooth stone edges betray you, your hand slips, and the wreath tips, falling with a soft but unmistakable thump against the stone pedestal near the owl's perch. The bird's large eyes snap toward the sound. It flares its wings, ruffling its feathers in a sudden, alarming display. Then it lets out a sharp, piercing hoot that cuts through the temple courtyard like a thunderclap. Nearby Athenians gasp or murmur anxiously. An elderly woman clutches her rosary beads tightly. A young boy shrinks back behind his mother's skirts. The owl's gaze locks onto you, unwavering and severe. A chill snakes down your spine. You realize, with growing dread, that you have committed a grave social and religious faux pas. A priest emerges from the shadows, his long robes rustling softly as he approaches. His face is lined with years of devotion and wisdom. Traveler, he says in a low voice, you honor Athena, but you must also honor her sacred companion. The owl is her messenger, her symbol of insight and vigilance. To disturb it is to offend the goddess herself. This is no trivial matter. You bow deeply, cheeks burning with embarrassment and regret. I meant no disrespect. Please forgive my clumsiness. I offer this wreath again, with a heart full of humility. The priest nods slowly and steps back, leaving you alone with the solemn owl, which now watches you with an inscrutable calm. For a long moment, the only sound is the soft rustling of the olive branches in your hands and the distant murmur of the city. Then, As if deciding to grant you mercy, the owl spreads its wings and rises smoothly into the bright sky. Its silhouette drifts against the golden afternoon light like a silent guardian fading into the heavens. You breathe deeply, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering awe. As you leave the temple, you carry with you a quiet understanding. In ancient Athens, the gods are everywhere, their presence woven into the fabric of daily life. Their symbols, like the wise owl, demand respect and caution. Even the smallest gesture can ripple through the divine tapestry, shaping your fate in ways unseen. Walking back through the agora, you notice the intricate mosaics beneath your feet, depicting scenes of Athena herself teaching mortals the arts of weaving and strategy. You think of the goddess not as a distant figure but as an ever-watchful force, ready to reward wisdom and punish thoughtlessness. Tonight, as you lay your head down, the image of that solemn owl lingers in your mind, an emblem of wisdom, mystery, and the delicate balance between mortal and divine. You fall asleep during a lecture and wake up famous. You arrive early at the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, a place where Athenians gather daily to hear the latest from philosophers and rhetoricians. Today, a celebrated teacher has been invited to speak about arete, excellence, and the virtues that shape the ideal citizen and city. You clutch a small wax tablet, hoping to take notes and impress your peers. The Stoa is alive with conversation and anticipation. Around you, men of all ages lean forward on stone benches, some stroking their beards, others nodding along with the orator's grand gestures. You notice intricate frescoes lining the walls, vivid depictions of heroes and battles, meant to inspire courage and wisdom. The speaker begins, his voice rich and rhythmic, recounting tales of Socrates' relentless questioning and Homer's heroes wrestling with fate. His words weave through justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom, ideas heavy with meaning, yet spoken in the lively cadence of a master storyteller. You try hard to focus, but your body feels heavy. Perhaps it's the late night spent wandering the agora or the lingering effects of the sun's warmth. Your eyelids flutter, then close. The distant murmur of voices becomes a gentle lullaby. The stone bench is cold but comforting beneath you. You slip softly into sleep. In your dreams, Athena herself appears, not as a distant statue, but a living figure. Her eyes gleam with fierce intelligence, her olive branch swaying gently. She speaks in riddles about the nature of knowledge and the fine line between hubris and humility. But then, the dream shifts. You see yourself walking through Athens, but the streets are filled with whispers of your name. People point and smile. Children imitate you, adults debate your ideas. You are no longer invisible. A sudden sharp sound pulls you back to the Stoa. You open your eyes slowly, blinking against the bright light filtering through the colonnade. Around you, there is a ripple of excitement. Whispers grow louder. Someone near you leans over and says, "Did you hear? The teacher mentioned you in his speech." Confused, you sit up, rubbing your eyes. The orator's voice carries again, clearer this time. "Consider the young man who slept through the lecture, yet whose dreams revealed truths even waking minds missed. Let this be a reminder. Wisdom may come in unexpected forms." Murmurs ripple through the crowd. You see smiles and approving nods. The teacher's praise, framed in poetic language, turns your dozing into a symbol of rest as part of reflection, of imperfection leading to insight. By midday, word has spread through the agora and beyond. You find yourself greeted with curious looks and friendly greetings from strangers. A merchant pauses to nod at you approvingly, a sculptor invites you to a discussion circle, and even a group of older philosophers listen intently as you shyly share your thoughts. Your accidental fame becomes a gentle but persistent tide, lifting you into circles you had only dreamed of joining. That evening, you sit among scholars in a quiet courtyard. Lanterns flicker softly, casting dancing shadows on the mosaic floor. Your voice, once hesitant, grows with confidence as you discuss justice and virtue, referencing the very lecture you nearly missed. One elder smiles and says, "True wisdom is not just in hearing, but in understanding. You, young friend, have shown us that sometimes the mind needs rest to see more clearly." You feel a warm glow of pride mixed with humility. Later, as night deepens, you walk alone to the Acropolis. The city lies beneath you, alive with flickering oil lamps and distant laughter. The Parthenon's silhouette stands proud against the stars, a monument to Athena's enduring watch. You think back on how strangely fortune works in Athens. One moment you were a mere spectator, the next, a symbol of wisdom's unexpected paths. The owl of Athena seems to watch silently from its perch, as if acknowledging your newfound role. Tonight, you rest not just as an ordinary citizen, but as someone touched by fate, reminded that even mistakes and sleepy moments can open doors to greatness. Sleep well, friend. Tomorrow holds new stories, new lessons, and new surprises as you walk further into the rich tapestry of ancient Greek life. You're asked to debate ethics and panic immediately. The stone floor beneath your feet feels cool as you step into the shade of the open-air stoa. The chatter of the crowd buzzes around you like a restless storm, a tide of voices eager to be heard. Yesterday's unexpected fame still lingers like a warm cloak, but today brings a new challenge, one that grips your heart with icy fingers. A tall, elderly man approaches, his face carved with the lines of countless years spent pondering the nature of man and the divine. His eyes hold a serious gleam as he nods toward a circle of assembled citizens, philosophers, and students gathering expectantly. "You," he says with calm authority, "have been chosen to speak in today's debate on ethics. It begins shortly. Prepare yourself." Your chest tightens. Your mind races back to the countless hours you spent poring over texts from Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, trying to grasp their teachings on virtue, justice, and the good life. But now, all that knowledge feels tangled and distant, like trying to clutch smoke. What do you truly know about morality? How can you articulate your thoughts in front of these seasoned thinkers? The weight of the crowd presses down on you as you walk toward the circle. Each step is heavy, as if invisible chains hold you back, dragging you deeper into uncertainty. The first speaker rises, a confident man with a voice as steady as a mountain stream. He speaks eloquently about justice as harmony, the balance between individual desires and the needs of the city-state. Heads nod. Some murmur agreement. Then, all eyes shift to you. Your heart pounds wildly, threatening to burst free. Your mouth opens, but your words stall, caught between swirling thoughts and trembling lips. I think that ethics is, well, it is important because... A nervous laugh bubbles from somewhere in the crowd, quiet but unmistakable. You feel dozens of gazes pierce you, some skeptical, others patient but expectant. You swallow hard, struggling to steady your voice. You try again. Perhaps ethics is not just rules, but the way we learn to live with one another. It is about balance between what we want and what is right for the polis. A few people lean in, intrigued by this softer, uncertain answer. Encouraged, you continue, each word gaining a little strength. You know, even Socrates questioned everything. Maybe sometimes not knowing is the start of wisdom. We all make mistakes, but the path to goodness is trying and learning. The circle grows quieter, the tension easing slightly. An older woman with silver hair smiles gently and nods. "Wise words from one who admits the struggle," she says. "Ethics is not simple. It is a journey, not a destination." Relief floods through you, warming your limbs. The panic that had frozen your tongue melts like morning frost. As the debate continues, you find your voice more sure, weaving your thoughts with stories and questions rather than firm proclamations. By the time the discussion ends, you are no longer the trembling newcomer. Instead, you are a participant in the living tradition of Athenian inquiry, imperfect, searching, yet heard. Walking away from the circle, your breath steadies, and a quiet pride settles in your chest. Today, you face fear and stumbled, but you also rose, step by uncertain step, into the world you have only begun to understand. The sun is dipping low behind the Parthenon, casting long shadows over the city. The evening hum of Athens carries on, full of promise and unspoken questions. You join a procession and lose your sandal in the crowd. The morning sun has just begun to warm the marble streets of Athens when you step out into the lively city square. The air is fragrant with the sweet scent of blooming laurel, mingling with the sharp, smoky aroma of olive wood burning in braziers. Around you, the city is alive with excitement and anticipation. Today is a day of celebration, a sacred procession in honor of Athena herself, the revered goddess who watches over the city with her ever-watchful owl. People of all ages are gathering, dressed in their finest tunics and cloaks, their feet shod in well-worn leather sandals or bare as tradition permits. The streets are already thick with chatter, laughter, and the rhythmic beat of drums and cymbals. Vendors shout to one another, selling figs soaked in honey, pomegranates bursting with juice, and small braided loaves of barley bread. Children weave through the crowds, their eyes wide with wonder and excitement. You feel a thrill of nervous energy as you find yourself swept up in the flow of the crowd, moving toward the grand procession. The throng ebbs and flows like a living river, priests and priestesses bearing sacred statues, their robes fluttering in the warm breeze, young girls scattering fresh flower petals in the dust, elders chanting solemn hymns to the gods, and citizens offering fruits, wine, and small treasures to honor Athena's favor. Your own footsteps echo on the ancient stone pavement, your simple leather sandals barely gripping the smooth surfaces. You savor the feeling of belonging, of being part of this grand tradition that connects you to generations past. Yet as the crowd grows denser, the movement becomes more difficult. People press tightly together, jostling and shifting with the tide of bodies. Suddenly, you feel a sharp nudge from behind, and your left foot catches on something. A moment later, you realize with alarm that your sandal has slipped off, tumbling to the ground unseen beneath the mass of feet. You glance down quickly, heart pounding, but the sandal disappears, lost beneath a shifting wave of sandals and bare toes. A sharp panic rises in your chest. The stone beneath is warm from the morning sun, but its rough surface feels harsh against your bare skin. You reach down instinctively, fingertips brushing the dusty ground where your sandal vanished, but the crowd presses onward, relentless. The procession does not stop. The chant of the crowd swells, a rising tide of voices calling, "Elite! Elite! For Athena!" A prayer, a song, a fierce devotion. You hesitate, torn between stopping to search for your sandal and pushing forward to stay with the crowd. The stones bite into your foot, small shards of gravel digging into your heel and arch. A sharp sting blossoms with each step, but you grit your teeth and choose to press on barefoot. The noise around you is overwhelming, the pounding drums, the clash of cymbals, the murmur of thousands of voices blending into one great roar of worship. The smell of burning incense drifts past you, thick and sweet, wrapping around your senses. Colorful banners ripple in the breeze, painted with the sacred symbols of Athena, the owl, the olive branch, the spear and shield. Children dart around your feet, laughing and playing as they move with practiced ease, their bare soles accustomed to the rough stone. You watch one little girl balance carefully, nimble and sure, as your own steps falter. Nearby, an older woman catches your eye and offers a quiet smile, one that speaks of understanding and patience. She says nothing, letting you find your own way through the crowd, but her kindness warms you against the cold sting of vulnerability. Your thoughts drift for a moment, away from the pain and noise, to the countless Athenians who have walked this same path for centuries. How many have lost sandals or tripped over stones? How many have prayed here, barefoot and weary, carrying their hopes and fears to the goddess? The majestic temple of Athena appears ahead, rising proudly on the Acropolis, its gleaming marble columns catching the sunlight like beacons. The carved owl emblem watches over all below, a silent guardian of wisdom and courage. At last, the procession reaches the sacred altar. The chanting quiets, and the crowd gathers close, hands raised in reverence. You join in, your heart pounding not just from the pain in your feet but from the sacredness of the moment. A tap on your shoulder startles you. You turn to see a young man standing nearby, holding out a sandal, a spare, worn but clean. "Lost yours, did you?" he says with a teasing grin. "It happens to everyone at least once." Relief floods you like a gentle wave. You slip your foot into the sandal, the cool leather a balm against your aching skin. You smile, gratitude softening your tired expression. The young man shrugs and laughs quietly, then steps back into the crowd, disappearing into the river of faces. The sun begins to dip behind the Parthenon, casting long shadows over the city. The procession disperses, but you carry with you the memory of the lost sandal, the burning stones, and the kindness of a stranger, all woven into the sacred rhythm of Athens, a story you will remember long after the crowds have gone. You try to offer incense and set your sleeve on fire. The courtyard before the majestic temple of Athena is a sanctuary of swirling scents and dancing shadows. The morning sun casts golden rays over the gleaming marble columns, but here, in the shaded portico, the air is thick with fragrant smoke, sweet frankincense mingled with the earthy aroma of myrrh and cedar. The priests and priestesses move with slow, deliberate grace, carrying bronze censers from which tendrils of smoke rise and twist like living serpents toward the blue sky. You clutch a small clay bowl, its edges warm beneath your fingers, filled with glowing embers and dried herbs meant to be offered to the goddess. Your heart hammers against your ribs, not only from the weight of the task but from the deep reverence the ceremony demands. Around you, the congregation bows their heads, some whispering prayers, others silent in awe. The soft murmur of their voices blends with the faint rustle of tunics and the steady crackle of flames from nearby braziers. Trying to steady your trembling hands, you watch the priestess before you. Her movements are fluid, practiced, a quiet dance performed over countless mornings. She lifts her censer, sending a gentle plume of smoke skyward, then dips it low, as if offering the scent directly into the breath of Athena herself. Inspired, you raise your bowl cautiously, wishing to honor the goddess with the same dignity. But your sleeve, your loose, linen sleeve, hangs perilously close to a flickering torch mounted on the temple's wall. Before you can pull it back, a sudden flash of orange ignites the fabric. A sharp, burning heat races up your arm. Your breath catches. The world seems to slow. "Fire!" you shout, voice cracking as you instinctively bring your hand to your sleeve, swatting wildly. The small patch of linen quickly catches flame, glowing fiercely as sparks leap into the air, sparkling like angry stars against the temple's pale stone. Panic floods your senses, the sacred calm shattered in an instant. "Drop the incense!" the priestess commands sharply, her calm replaced by urgent concern. You let the bowl fall with a harsh clatter, the herbs inside scattering, releasing a sudden puff of smoke that chokes the air for a heartbeat. Several hands reach out, some beat cloth against your sleeve, others splash cool water from a bronze jar. The flames hiss and sputter, retreating under the onslaught until only wisps of smoke curl from your scorched garment. Your heart thunders in your chest, adrenaline coursing. The priestess lays a gentle hand on your arm, her eyes searching yours for any sign of injury. "Are you hurt, child?" she asks, voice softening like a bomb. "No, no burns," you manage, voice shaky but relieved. "Only my sleeve. I'm sorry. I didn't mean." She shakes her head, a slight smile touching her lips. "Such things happen to those still learning the rites. Fire is a living thing. Tremble before it with respect, and it will bless you. Forget it, and it will burn you." You feel the heat lingering on your skin, a prickling reminder of your carelessness. Around you, whispers ripple through the crowd. Some offer sympathetic glances, others stifle amused smiles. A small boy giggles behind his mother, whispering something that makes her shake her head with a quiet smile. One of the attendants hands you a clean linen cloth to dab your arm. The fabric smells faintly of lavender and olive oil, soothing against your skin. As you stand to the side, watching the priestess resume her ritual, the sacred chants and melodies once again fill the air. The smoke spirals upward, carrying the prayers of the city to the ears of the gods. Despite the embarrassment, you find a strange comfort in this shared humanity. This moment when even the unskilled and uncertain can touch the divine, if only by accident. The temple bells toll softly, marking the passage of time and the continuation of the ceremony. You vow silently, next time, your sleeve will stay far from the flame. Today, you carry a story of fire and forgiveness, an offering of humility at the altar of Athena. You watch wrestlers train and pretend to understand the rules. The blazing Athenian sun scorches the open-air palestra, a sprawling courtyard ringed with white marble columns and rough-hewn stone benches. Dust rises in lazy spirals from the packed earth floor, stirred by the heavy, rhythmic footsteps of wrestlers moving in unison. The air hangs thick with the mingled scents of sweat, olive oil, and crushed herbs, all blending into the unmistakable odor of fierce physical exertion. Your feet sink slightly into the gritty soil as you make your way toward the heart of the action, where two muscular young men grapple with a raw intensity that sends every muscle in their bronze bodies taut and gleaming. Their skin, slick with sweat, shines in the sunlight as they twist and strain against each other's weight and strength. The sound of grunts, sharp exhales, and the thud of bodies colliding echoes off the walls, punctuated by bursts of encouragement and instruction from trainers standing nearby. You find a spot on a low stone bench, trying to appear confident while secretly wrestling with confusion. You watch the wrestlers' movements. The way one man ducks and twists to avoid a pin, the other lunges forward with a grip that looks both fierce and precise. They slip in and out of holds and locks so quickly it's hard to follow, their bodies moving with a fluid grace that seems both deliberate and instinctive. Around you, other spectators, mostly young men clad in simple chitons, cheer loudly, shouting phrases like, "He's got the wrist," "Hold him tight," or "Don't let him down." You nod and murmur along, doing your best to appear knowledgeable. Yet inside, your mind spins. What exactly counts as victory here? Is it when the opponent's back touches the ground? Or is it about forcing a submission? You vaguely remember hearing something about points, but the details blur like smoke. As you furrow your brow, trying to decipher the complex dance of strength and strategy before you, a large, bearded man catches your gaze. His eyes twinkle with amusement as he strides over, his sandals stirring up dust with each heavy step. "First time watching, isn't it?" he says, voice rough but friendly. You laugh nervously. "Yes, I'm still trying to understand it all." He claps you heartily on the shoulder. "Don't worry, it's not just about the rules. Wrestling is an art, a test of spirit and endurance. It's about respect, both for your opponent and for yourself. The rules will come with time." His words soothe your anxiety a bit, and you smile gratefully. "I hope so. It looks so complicated." Nearby, two wrestlers take a break, sitting on the ground and wiping sweat from their faces with rough cloths. One catches your eye and smirks. "Care to try?" he asks teasingly. "It's much harder than it looks." You shake your head quickly, still relieved to remain a spectator for now. "I'll stick to watching." The match resumes, and you watch with growing fascination as the combatants anticipate each other's moves. One tries to grapple his opponent's arm, but the other twists and counters with a swift hip throw that sends the first tumbling to the ground with a heavy thud. The crowd erupts in cheers and laughter, some slapping the wrestlers on their backs or exchanging congratulatory nods. Your eyes trace every movement, the tension in their fingers, the flex of calves and thighs, the beads of sweat sliding down their temples. You feel a stirring in your own muscles, as if you want to leap in and test your own strength, but also a deep respect for the discipline these men have forged through endless hours of training. As the sun climbs higher, the temperature rises, and the wrestling slows into a grueling endurance test. The trainers shout encouragement, urging their charges to push through exhaustion and pain. You notice how the wrestlers' breathing becomes heavy, ragged, their bodies slick with exertion yet unyielding. You find yourself caught between admiration and a quiet self-doubt. How long would you last here? Could you endure the pain, the relentless pressure, the constant demand for both mental and physical control? Suddenly, one of the wrestlers breaks away and jogs over to you, wiping sweat from his brow. "If you want to understand the rules," he says with a grin, "you must learn to feel the rhythm of the match. It's not just about strength, it's about timing, patience, and knowing when to yield." You nod slowly, absorbing his words. "I'll try to remember that." He laughs, claps you lightly on the shoulder, and jogs back to the circle of fighters. The match continues, the sun beating down mercilessly, but the spirit of competition and camaraderie fills the air. You remain seated, your mind buzzing with new impressions, the strength, the skill, the ancient art that unfolds before you, a living connection to the legacy of Athens. When the session finally draws to a close, the wrestlers pant heavily but smile, rubbing each other's backs and sharing words of respect. You rise slowly, feeling both exhausted and exhilarated. Though the rules remain somewhat mysterious, a newfound appreciation stirs within you, a recognition that wrestling is more than a contest. It is a lesson in humility, courage, and the enduring human will. You hide from the sun in a pottery shop and get dust in your nose. The midday sun blazes mercilessly over Athens, pouring down golden heat that bakes the narrow streets and sends waves of shimmering light dancing over the cobblestones. Every breath you take feels thick and warm, heavy with the dust and scents of the city. The relentless glare forces you to squint, and the thin fabric of your tunic clings uncomfortably to your skin, soaked through with sweat. Seeking refuge, you duck off the crowded main street and slip into the shade of a small pottery shop tucked between two whitewashed houses. Instantly, the temperature drops, the air cool and still, a gentle relief from the oppressive heat outside. You inhale deeply, filling your lungs with the scent of wet clay, dust, and faint beeswax, a scent strangely comforting in its earthiness. The shop's interior is dim but alive with quiet energy. Rough wooden shelves climb the walls, crammed with pots, amphorae, craters, and delicate calyxes, each carefully painted with intricate black and red figures. Scenes of gods waging battles, women weaving cloth, and charioteers racing decorate the pottery, telling silent stories of myth and everyday life. Your eyes adjust to the dimness, drawn to the smooth curves and sharp rims of the vessels. You run a finger lightly over a painted amphora, marveling at the precision of the artistry, the fine lines tracing the folds of a chiton, the fierce eyes of a lion, the swirl of a goddess's hair. Each pot feels like a small universe, crafted by hands skilled and patient. As you reach out to touch a small calyx, a cup used for drinking wine, a fine cloud of dust rises from the shelf. The particles float lazily in the shafts of sunlight filtering through the open doorway, catching in the air like tiny motes of gold. Suddenly, your nostrils itch fiercely, and you sneeze sharply, twice, then a third time, coughing as the dry dust invades your nose and throat. "Ah, the dust!" A voice chuckles gently behind you. Turning, you see the potter himself, a man with sun-darkened skin, strong hands marked with clay stains, and eyes that sparkle with quiet humor. He wipes his hands on his apron, then gestures around the shop. "Dust is the price we pay for beauty and creation," he says with a shrug. "The earth gives us clay, but it is never quite clean. It reminds us that even in art, there is always some hardship." You smile sheepishly, rubbing at your nose. "I suppose that is true. It caught me by surprise." He nods knowingly, then motions to his potter's wheel in the corner. The round wooden platform spins slowly, a lump of wet clay at its center. With practiced ease, he begins shaping it, fingers pressing and coaxing the clay into form. The wheel spins, the shape grows, a bowl, perhaps, or a cup. You watch, fascinated, as the shapeless mound transforms under his hands. The clay glistens with moisture, smooth and cool to the touch. The potter's movements are fluid and sure, like a dance born of years of practice. You feel a deep admiration for this simple but profound craft, the creation of something both useful and beautiful from raw earth. The potter glances at you and offers a warm smile. "Would you like to try?" You hesitate, then nod eagerly. He steps aside and gestures to the wheel. Kneeling before it, you reach out tentatively, hands trembling slightly. The cool wet clay slips beneath your fingers, and the wheel begins to spin. You press your thumbs gently into the center, trying to follow the potter's steady rhythm. At first, the clay wobbles unevenly, threatening to collapse. You struggle to keep your hands steady, the weight of the task suddenly heavy. The potter's voice guides you softly, encouraging patience and care. Minutes pass, and gradually your confidence grows. The clay starts to take shape, a rough bowl rising beneath your palms. Your sleeves brush the shells, sending another cloud of dust into the air. You sneeze again, laughing at your own clumsiness. The potter chuckles. "Even the gods would smile at your effort." Outside, the noise of the city hums faintly. Merchants hawking goods, children laughing, the distant clatter of carts over stone. Inside, the potter's shop is a quiet refuge, a small world apart where time seems to slow. You sit back on a wooden stool, breathing deeply, still feeling the dry dust lingering in your nose but grateful for the cool shadow and gentle rhythm of creation. The heat outside continues its merciless reign, but here, surrounded by art and earth, you find a moment's peace. As the potter returns to his wheel, shaping another vessel, you reflect on the strange beauty of Athens, the mingling of light and shadow, sweat and dust, effort and artistry. In this dusty shop, you are reminded that life itself is a work in progress. Fragile and imperfect, yet endlessly fascinating. You're asked to lead a song and forget every word. The sun is dipping low over Athens, casting long, soft shadows across the agora where the day's market is winding down and the city's evening life begins to stir. The air is fragrant with the scent of olive oil, roasted lamb, and fresh bread baking in nearby ovens. Around you, groups of people gather near a small open-air pavilion, their faces flushed from the day's heat and lively conversation. You find yourself drawn to the crowd, curious about the gathering. A lyre rests against a wooden bench nearby, its strings gleaming faintly in the warm light. A few villagers have already started to hum soft melodies, the gentle notes drifting over the chatter like a calming breeze. Suddenly, a man with a friendly smile and bright eyes approaches you. He's a well-known singer and storyteller, someone who often leads communal songs during festivals and celebrations. His voice rings clear and warm as he addresses you directly. "Come, friend," he says. "We need a voice to lead the song tonight. Will you stand with us and guide the chorus?" Your heart skips a beat. Leading a song, especially here, where music is woven deeply into daily life and religious ceremony, is an honor, but also a great responsibility. You feel a flutter of excitement and panic all at once. "Me?" you ask, your voice uncertain. "Yes, you," he replies encouragingly. "The song is familiar, everyone knows it. You'll do well." Nodding, you step forward to join the group, trying to steady your breath. The lyre player strums a gentle chord, and the melody begins to rise, soft, sweet, and ancient, filled with praises to Apollo and the Muses, calling for joy, wisdom, and harmony. But as the words reach your lips, your mind suddenly goes blank. Every verse, every chorus you thought you remembered, slips away like water through your fingers. You stand frozen, the eyes of the crowd turning toward you, waiting for you to lead. Your cheeks flush red. Your throat feels dry, as if the song itself has disappeared into silence. You manage a hesitant hum, a faint note that barely rises above the murmurs of the crowd. The pause stretches awkwardly, heavy and palpable. Just as panic begins to rise in your chest, an elderly woman sitting near the front starts singing softly. Her voice is clear and steady, carrying the melody with a gentle strength that seems to ripple through the gathering. Others join in, their voices weaving around hers like a warm embrace. The song swells and flows, a living river of sound that carries away your embarrassment and fills the evening air with beauty. You take a shaky breath, letting yourself be carried along by the music. Slowly, the words return, not perfectly, but enough. You begin to sing with more confidence, your voice blending with the chorus. The crowd smiles, encouraging you with nods and gentle applause. The song unfolds like a story, telling of heroes and gods, of sunlit hills and starry skies, of laughter shared and troubles eased. You lose yourself in the rhythm, the ancient verses wrapping around your heart like a comforting cloak. After the final notes fade, the crowd erupts in warm applause. The man who asked you to lead claps your shoulder, his smile wide and genuine. "You did well," he says. "Sometimes, it's not knowing every word that makes the song alive. It's the courage to join in, to share your voice." You smile, feeling a deep sense of connection to this moment, to these people, and to the timeless power of song itself. As the sun sinks below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of pink and gold, you realize that music is not just about perfect memory, it's about heart, community, and the bravery to sing even when you're uncertain. You mistake a statue for a real person and apologize to it. The afternoon sun hangs high over the marble streets of Athens, bathing the city in brilliant light that gleams off columns and sculptures alike. The agora, the heart of civic life, is alive with the usual bustle, merchants hawking their wares, philosophers debating loudly, children darting between adults, and the faint hum of sandals scuffing against stone. You wander through this vibrant scene, your eyes drawn to the towering statues scattered throughout the square. Each one is carved with exquisite detail, gods and heroes frozen in eternal poise, their marble eyes seeming almost alive under the sun's glare. As you stroll, your thoughts drift lazily, still full of the day's earlier events, the hurried escape from the market's heat, the curious pottery shop with its dust and earth scent, and the unexpected rush of leading a song. The afternoon feels warm, peaceful, and somehow sacred. Suddenly, your attention snaps back to a figure standing near the entrance to a small temple. At first glance, it looks like a young man, tall and regal, dressed in a flowing chiton, his arms crossed calmly over his chest. His expression is serene, yet commanding, as if he's silently watching over the square. You approach him slowly, thinking this might be a philosopher or an important citizen lost in thought. The figure's marble eyes seem to follow your movement, and for a moment, you swear you can feel the quiet breath of life beneath the stone's surface. You hesitate, then step forward with a polite bow. "Forgive me," you say softly, "if I have disturbed you." There is no response, of course, only the sunlit stillness of the statue. Embarrassment creeps up your cheeks. Did you just speak to a statue? The crowd nearby is oblivious, caught up in their own lives. You clear your throat, trying to recover your dignity. "I meant no disrespect," you add quickly. "I only thought you might be someone who needed assistance." A small child nearby giggles, pointing at you with wide eyes. You turn, catching the amused smiles of a group of older women seated on a nearby bench. One shakes her head, chuckling softly, and mutters something about the city's visitors. You realize, with a mixture of amusement and humility, that you've made a classic mistake, mistaking the lifeless stone for a living soul. As you step back, you take a moment to admire the statue properly. It's a masterful work, carved by one of Athens' finest sculptors, intended to honor a forgotten hero or perhaps a god. The marble is so polished that the folds of his garment seem soft, the details of his hair and facial features so lifelike they almost deceive the eye. The statue stands frozen in time, a symbol of ideals long past but still alive in the city's spirit. Your brief encounter, though awkward, somehow connects you to that timelessness, a reminder of how art bridges the human and the divine. You chuckle quietly to yourself and whisper a final apology, this time with genuine warmth. "Forgive my foolishness, noble guardian." Turning away, you continue your walk through the agora, the sun warming your back and the laughter of the city filling your ears. The statue remains behind you, silent and eternal, watching over Athens with the patient gaze of history itself. You gaze at the stars and wonder if Socrates ever slept. The night settles gently over Athens, wrapping the city in a quiet cloak of darkness dotted with the flickering glow of oil lamps and the soft murmurs of those still awake. The agora, now emptied of its daytime clamor, lies peaceful beneath the silver light of the moon, its marble columns casting long, serene shadows on the cool stone ground. You find yourself drawn upward, stepping away from the glowing lamps and the last murmurs of the city, seeking the vast canvas of the night sky. You climb a gentle hill just beyond the city walls, where the air is cooler and cleaner, and the distant sounds of Athens soften into a whisper. Here, away from the bustle, the stars emerge, countless pinpricks of light scattered across the deep velvet of the heavens. The Milky Way spills like a pale river across the sky, ancient and eternal, a reminder of worlds beyond your reach. The constellations, so familiar yet mysterious, twinkle and shift, telling silent stories older than any living memory. You settle onto the cool grass, the earth steady beneath you, and breathe deeply, feeling the cool night air fill your lungs. The silence feels sacred, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a night bird. As you gaze upward, your thoughts turn inward and beyond. You wonder about the philosophers who once walked these very streets, their minds grappling with life's deepest questions under the same stars. Most of all, your thoughts linger on Socrates, the man whose wisdom has become legend, whose restless mind and probing questions have shaped the very foundation of your city's soul. Did Socrates ever sleep? You imagine him, seated beneath the olive trees or pacing the stone steps of the academy, eyes bright and searching, voice calm yet insistent. Was he ever truly at rest, or did the endless quest for truth keep his mind alight even in the dark? You picture him pondering the nature of knowledge, of virtue, of the soul, his thoughts spiraling far beyond the boundaries of the earthly night into the realm of the eternal. Perhaps sleep was a brief pause, a fleeting moment between revelations, Or perhaps he welcomed the quiet darkness as a companion to his restless intellect. The stars seem to whisper answers you cannot fully grasp. The universe stretches endlessly above you, and the questions you carry feel both small and immense, like the delicate glow of a single star against the boundless night. You breathe out slowly, feeling a strange kinship with that ancient seeker of wisdom. Your own thoughts wander through the mysteries of existence, the beauty and fragility of life, and the quiet moments that hold meaning beyond words. A cool breeze stirs the grass around you, carrying the faint scent of wild herbs and distant pine. You close your eyes briefly, letting the night's peace wash over you. The stars continue their silent vigil, distant and eternal, as if watching over the city and all its restless dreamers. In this stillness, you realize that to wonder, to question, and to seek, even in the quiet solitude beneath the stars, is itself a kind of sleep for the soul. A gentle pause between the waking and the unknown. When you finally rise and turn back toward the city's glow, the night sky lingers in your mind, vast, mysterious, and endlessly inviting. Socrates may have sought answers all his days, but tonight, under these ancient stars, you find a kind of peace in the question itself. You drift off to the sound of lyres and distant laughter. The night wraps Athens in its quiet embrace, a soothing hush that falls gently over the bustling city now lulled into peaceful slumber. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of wild herbs and blooming jasmine that twine through the narrow streets and courtyard gardens. Above, the sky is a vast canvas of deep indigo, studded with shimmering stars that have witnessed centuries of human stories, triumphs, struggles, love, and loss. You find yourself reclining on a simple woven mat laid out beneath the open sky, your body sinking into the soft fibers, tired yet content. The last warm hues of sunset have faded, leaving behind a soft glow that mingles with the silver moonlight, casting delicate shadows on the ancient stones of the city. Nearby, through an open window, the gentle, melodic plucking of a lyre drifts on the breeze. The musician's fingers move deftly over the strings, coaxing out a tune that is at once both lively and soothing, a song sung at countless gatherings, passed down through generations, a timeless thread binding the community. The music weaves through the night air, wrapping around you like a comforting shawl. Intermingled with the lyre's melody is the faint murmur of voices, friends and family sharing quiet conversations, laughter ringing softly like chimes in the night. Children's giggles echo from a distant alley where they play hide and seek beneath the watchful gaze of stone statues and olive trees. Somewhere, a potter's apprentice hums a tune while finishing the last touches on a clay vase, the scrape of tools and soft thud of hands shaping earth blending into the night's symphony. Your mind drifts back over the day's moments, each one vivid and alive. You remember the dusty pottery shop where you hid from the sun and ended up sneezing from the fine earth in the air. The embarrassment and warmth of leading the song earlier, the moment your mind went blank. Your cheeks burning as you forgot every word, only to be carried by the voices of those around you. You chuckle softly to yourself, recalling the strange, tender moment when you mistook a marble statue for a living person and earnestly apologized for disturbing him. The statue, silent and still, seemed almost to forgive your folly, standing eternally watchful as a symbol of the city's enduring spirit. And then the stars, the infinite heavens you gazed upon, wondering if Socrates himself ever truly found rest. Did the great philosopher find peace beneath this very sky? Or did his mind wander endlessly through questions and ideas, as restless in sleep as in waking? The thought fills you with a curious comfort, knowing that even the wisest among us wrestled with the mysteries of existence. Around you, the city's heartbeat slows, but life never fully ceases. A breeze stirs the olive leaves above, rustling softly like whispered secrets. The lyre's melody shifts, becoming slower, more tender, a lullaby sung not just to the people but to the night itself. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, the cool air filling your lungs, the music and laughter folding gently around you. In this moment, everything feels connected, the past and present, the city and its people, the earth beneath you and the stars above. Your thoughts soften, and sleep begins to draw near, pulling you into its gentle embrace. The city's stories settle around you like a blanket, stories of joy and sorrow, courage and kindness, ordinary lives woven into the extraordinary tapestry of Athens. Before you fully drift away, you offer a quiet thanks to this ancient city, for its beauty, its wisdom, and the kindness of strangers who welcomed you, even when you fumbled your way through its rituals and customs. Thank you for traveling through this journey with me, exploring the streets and stories of ancient Athens, feeling the pulse of a world both distant and yet alive within us. If you found comfort in this tale, please like, comment, and subscribe to Quiet Stories, your haven for calm, immersive history and gentle storytelling. May your nights be filled with peaceful dreams, your heart with curiosity, and your days with quiet wonder. Good night from Athens, and good night from me.